what do you know? I guess I'll be the one who dies first.
The actor was found dead at his home in LA today, where it appears he drowned in a hot tub.
Alcoholism, didn't care about that. And alcoholism did not care that I was on Friends. And alcoholism did not care about any of that shit. Alcoholism wants you alone, it wants you sick, and then it wants to kill you.
He made the world laugh harder than anyone else. He was a king of sarcastic comedy, the one with that awkward yet irresistible charm. But hidden behind the hilarious jokes and that perfect smile, Matthew Perry was quietly suffering, keeping his pain hidden from everyone around him. Years after Friends ended, he finally revealed the truth, and it shattered the hearts of millions of fans. Was it the crushing pressure of fame? The impossible expectation to always be perfect? Or was it a soul secretly breaking apart in silence? Chandler Bing had been his mask, and just before he passed, that mask fell off completely. What Matthew revealed changed everything we ever believed about the world's most beloved sitcom, the show that made the world laugh. If you grew up watching Friends in the early 1990s, then you definitely know Matthew Perry. The show was about 6 friends living their wild lives in New York City. They drank way too much coffee, constantly had relationship drama, and somehow always ended up sitting on that same brown couch at the coffee shop's central perk. Each character brought something special to the group. Rachel was a pretty one with flawless hair. Ross was emotional and a bit whiny. Monica cleaned obsessively and acted like she was the boss of the kitchen. Joey was sweet, but let's be real, he wasn't exactly smart. Phoebe was the quirky, hilarious one you couldn't help but adore. And then there was Chandler Bing. Chandler was the king of sarcasm. He was awkward, cracking jokes at the absolute worst moments. But somehow, his terrible timing made everything funnier. People loved him. He didn't even need words. He just walked into the room with his classic confused "what's going on?" face, and instantly, everyone was laughing. Chandler Bing was Matthew Perry, and Matthew, at that time, was secretly falling apart. While millions quoted his hilarious lines, Matthew was quietly battling addiction, deep insecurity, and crushing pressure. He had to show up every day and be funny. Not just regular funny, but Chandler-level funny. But behind the laughter and applause, things were seriously dark. On the surface, Friends looked perfect, the ultimate dream job with endless laughs, fame, and fortune. But behind the scenes, everything wasn't as perfect as it seemed. There were whispers, rumors of trouble behind the cameras. But Matthew kept quiet, hiding his struggles for years. It wasn't until just before his tragic passing that he began opening up. It started slowly with small interviews and little hints here and there. Then, suddenly, Matthew spilled everything, and what he revealed about his time on Friends completely changed how fans saw the iconic sitcom. But before diving into the shocking revelations Matthew shared, we have to rewind. We need to talk about who Matthew Perry really was. Not the funny guy on TV, not Chandler Bing, but the real person. The little boy who just wanted to feel okay. Because once you understand his past, the truth he revealed before his death will hit you even harder. What dark secret from Matthew's childhood nearly destroyed him before he ever found fame? And behind all that laughter, was his world slowly falling apart? The boy behind the smile. Matthew Langford Perry was born on August 19, 1969, in Williamstown, Massachusetts. But from the moment he was born, life got messy. His parents split up when he was still just a baby. His dad, John Bennett Perry, was an actor and former model who lived in California. His mom, Suzanne Marie Morrison, a Canadian journalist, stayed in Canada and later worked closely with Canada's Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau as his press secretary. Matthew grew up in Ottawa with his mom, and while she chased a high-powered career in politics, Matthew was often left alone. He later admitted his childhood felt deeply lonely. You could sense that loneliness later in the man he became. Matthew attended Rockcliffe Park Public School and Ashbury College, including a boarding school in Ottawa. He had 4 younger siblings on his mom's side and 1 younger sibling on his dad's side, Maria. But Matthew always felt like he didn't quite belong. His mom had a new family, and he felt like an outsider in his own home. In his own words, he felt like that kid up in the clouds on a flight to somewhere else unaccompanied. According to his memoir, friends, lovers, and the big terrible things. Matthew began drinking regularly at just 18. But despite his struggles, he had one huge talent: tennis. He trained for hours daily and became one of Canada's top junior tennis players. Many even believed he'd become a pro. But here's where things got really interesting. Matthew discovered something else early on. He could make people laugh. He quickly realized if he cracked a joke, everyone paid attention. They looked at him differently. And honestly, for a kid who felt invisible most of the time, making people laugh felt like a superpower. For a moment, it made him feel seen. But sadly, not all his jokes came from a happy place. Often, humor was just a mask he used to hide his true feelings. Everything changed again when Matthew moved back to Los Angeles at 15 to live with his dad. He began acting classes, and surprisingly, he was naturally talented. Of course, having a dad already established as an actor helped him out. But living in L.A. wasn't just Hollywood glam and red carpets. Matthew had to adjust to a new school, make new friends, and still struggle with an emptiness inside that wouldn't go away. Alcohol slowly became a part of his life, and sadly, that habit followed him for decades. Becoming Chandler, the role that saved and broke him. Everyone knows fame isn't always easy, especially in Hollywood. Many celebrities can't handle the pressure, but Matthew Perry somehow survived it. Once he moved back to Los Angeles full-time, he was young, funny, charming, and could make anyone laugh. The TV world immediately noticed him because he had something special. He wasn't handsome like a typical movie star or silly like the class clown. He was just the perfect blend of smart and hilarious. Producers couldn't resist. Matthew soon started landing small acting roles. They weren't huge hits, but it was a start. His first big break came in 1987 with a show called Second Chance. Unfortunately, it lasted only one season due to low ratings and bad reviews, typical in the ruthless world of TV. But it got him noticed. Soon after, he appeared in other popular shows in the late 80s and early 90s like Growing Pains, Charles in Charge, and even starred in a movie with River Phoenix called A Night in the Life of Jimmy Reardon. Then, the chance of a lifetime came, an audition for Friends in the early 90s. Matthew almost missed out because he was busy filming another sci-fi comedy called LAX 2194. The producers of Friends had already cast most of the main roles, but one crucial character remained elusive: Chandler Bing. They needed someone quick-witted, sarcastic, funny and lovable, but nobody felt right. But fate intervened. Matthew's other show, LAX 2194, flopped badly and never aired. Suddenly, he was free. When Matthew finally walked into the audition room to read for Chandler, everyone knew immediately this role was made for him. In 1994, everything changed for Matthew Perry when he stepped onto the Warner Brothers soundstage and became Chandler Bing, the smart-mouthed roommate with a heart of gold. Overnight, a television legend was born, and nobody could have predicted the storm that fame would unleash in his private life. When Friends premiered that autumn, the ratings shot through the roof faster than anyone expected. Viewers arranged their entire Thursday nights around six goofy pals drinking coffee, breaking hearts, and trading quips that would echo through living rooms across the planet. By the second season, the cast found themselves chased by screaming admirers everywhere they went. Shopping malls, airports. Even tiny cafes erupted into chaos the moment any of them appeared. Flashbulbs popped, reporters shouted questions, and autograph seekers waved programs in every direction. Magazine covers lined grocery aisles from Los Angeles to Tokyo, while talk show couches welcomed them almost weekly. Red carpet premieres turned into full-scale media frenzies, and in the middle of it all stood Matthew, smiling bravely, yet secretly wondering how long he could keep smiling. Here's the part very few fans saw coming. While his career zoomed skyward like a rocket, his personal life was spiraling down. Later he would admit, when Friends was at its peak, I was at my lowest, and that raw confession was not theater. The contrast between roaring laughter on stage and icy silence at home almost tore him in two. Behind the jokes, he battled invisible monsters, addiction, anxiety, and a crushing expectation to be hilarious every waking second. He dragged himself to set feeling awful, delivered flawless punchlines, accepted thunderous applause, and then drove home in silence with emptiness gnawing at his heart. The The pain stayed hidden, and that secrecy made it even heavier. Crew members thought he was simply tired. Friends assumed he was busy, and the audience kept cheering without realizing their laughter sometimes deepened his loneliness. Still, talent poured out of him like sunlight. Classic moments such as, "Could I be wearing any more clothes?" Or, "I'm not great at advice. Can I interest you in a sarcastic comment?" turned Chandler Bing into pop culture royalty. Outside Central Perk, he tested his range in romantic comedies like Fools Russian, action capers like The Whole Nine Yards, and even the teen fantasy 17 Again. Some projects scored at the box office. Others fizzled. Yet he refused to stop working. He chased dramatic respect with Aaron Sorkin's Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. And critics praised his gravitas, but audiences still shouted Chandler. Whenever he walked by, no matter the paycheck or the prestige, nothing felt as big or as heavy as Friends. Money flowed, mansions sparkled, sports cars purred, but not one of those shiny prizes fixed to hollowness. Day by day, that quiet battle ate into every piece of his life, turning success into a strange, glittering cage. No trophy glittered bright enough to chase away that shadow. Fans saw the lovable Joker cracking wise beneath a sweater vest. They never glimpsed the real Matthew pacing his apartment at night, wrestling with cravings he could barely name. Each night, the gap between the man on screen and the man in the mirror grew wider. Love, loss, and secret turmoil complicated everything once the camera is shut off. What happens when a habit destroying you refuses to loosen its grip? How close did Matthew come to losing everything he cared about? The answers might leave you breathless. Brace yourself, because hearts will race as we keep peeling back the layers. Love, loneliness, and the search for something real. Humor earned him global applause. Yet fame also dumped a mountain of pressure onto his shoulders, whispering that he had to be perfect every minute. Inside, he felt smaller than ever. At the core, Matthew longed for a partner who cherished the man behind the punchlines, a friend who looked past the billboards and saw the shy boy still hiding within. His first headline-grabbing romance lit up in 1996 when Julia Roberts guest starred on Friends and sparks flew on and off-screen. Hollywood sighed with delight, calling them the dream couple. But beneath the smiles he was shaking. In Friends, Lovers, and the big terrible thing he admitted, dating Julia Roberts had been too much for me. I was always sure she would leave me. Why wouldn't she? I wasn't enough. I was broken. Terrified she would leave first. He ended the relationship himself. That heartbreaking cycle repeated. Matthew often pushed people away before they could reach the vulnerable parts he guarded so fiercely. He feared real love might spot the cracks beneath the humor. One of his longest relationships bloomed with actress Lizzie Kaplan. They quietly shared 6 years during the 2000s, slipping in and out of Lakers games unnoticed by paparazzi. Years later, regret hit hard. With that one, I think I was afraid, he confessed, afraid of commitment, afraid of failure, afraid he would break something precious by simply being himself. Hope surfaced again in 2018 when he began dating literary manager Molly Hurwitz. The pair kept things low-key until 2020 when he proposed, announcing, "I decided to get engaged." Luckily, I happened to be dating the greatest woman on the face of the planet at this time. It sounded like hope at last. But in 2021, the engagement was over. Matthew stated, "Sometimes things just don't work out, and this is one of them. I wish Molly the best." Repeated heartbreak left him single during his last years, but he spoke openly about craving fatherhood more than any trophy. He worried the window was closing, but never let the dream die. While the studio audience clapped, Matthew Perry fought for survival off camera. Production stopped in February 2001 when he entered a treatment center for medication and alcohol problems. For 2 months, the world guessed while he fought a battle that felt endless. He later revealed that addiction wiped 3 entire seasons of Friends from his memory. Imagine not remembering delivering the very jokes that made the planet laugh. In 2018, disaster struck again. A perforated colon caused by years of opioid use sent him into emergency surgery. He spent 5 months in a hospital, endured a 2-week coma, and relied on a colostomy bag for 9 long months. Doctors warned his odds of survival hovered near zero. Machines breathed for him while Friends held their breath. Miraculously, he pulled through. His lungs ached, his body trembled, yet his spirit kept clawing toward daylight. 2 years later, a procedure at a Swiss rehab clinic turned nightmarish when his heart suddenly stopped. Doctors brought him back, but 8 ribs snapped under the strain of CPR. Across 3 decades, he endured 14 abdominal surgeries, 15 stints in rehab and therapy twice a week, spending millions chasing a peace that always seemed one step ahead. Still, he refused to surrender. He dreamed of turning his painful experience into a lifeline for others who felt alone in their own darkness. Which brings us to the farewell nobody saw coming. Wasn't he finally safe? Hadn't he survived everything already? The final twist arrived without warning. The goodbye no one saw coming. On October 28, 2023, heartbreaking headlines flashed across phones worldwide. Matthew Perry had been found unresponsive in the hot tub of his Los Angeles home, and he was gone at just 54. Police ruled out foul play, and investigators found no illegal substances or alcohol near the scene. Reporters called the passing peaceful, yet for fans it felt like the earth tilted. Social media erupted that night. Clips of Chandler's funniest moments looped endlessly, while quotes from his memoir flooded timelines. Presidents, actors, and millions of ordinary viewers mourned together. The outpouring showed just how deeply humor, when shared honestly, can stitch strangers together. He was never just an actor. For 10 seasons he welcomed us into his living room, turning sarcasm into therapy and reminding everyone that awkwardness could be lovable. A small private funeral gathered friends and family under California sunshine. They laughed, they cried. They let go of balloons that drifted toward the blue sky like tiny jokes whispered to heaven. The loss stung even more because only a year earlier his memoir had revealed the brutal cost of healing and had left readers believing he might finally be okay. After his death toxicology tests offered clarity. He had been free from opioids and alcohol, but he was receiving medically supervised ketamine therapy for depression. Tragically, the concentration found in his blood that day was so high it stopped his heart, ending the journey of a man who had already cheated death again and again. Matthew Perry's life proves that laughter can hide thunderstorms, and that the bravest thing a comedian can do is tell the truth about pain. May his story inspire every struggling soul to reach for help before the curtain closes. What was meant to heal him became the toughest fight of his life. His family spoke with aching hearts. We are heartbroken by the tragic loss of our beloved son and brother. Matthew brought so much joy to the world, both as an actor and friend. The statement flashed across phones in every country, and fans felt as if a light had switched off forever. The Friends cast, who loved him like real relatives, could barely speak through tears. They whispered, "We were more than just castmates. We are a family." There is so much to say, but right now, we're going to take a moment to grieve and process this loss. Red carpet photos of the 6 smiling together suddenly felt like fragile time capsules, and the shock was unbearable. Losing one of the core 6 felt like losing a piece of television history.